This program is brought to you by the following proud sponsors: Paulson Manufacturing, saving the eyes and lives of workers and first responders by manufacturing the highest quality and most reliable safety protective gear in the world. And by the All-Tech Media Group, the region's leading multimedia video production and marketing company, creating powerful and innovative marketing strategies that deliver exponential returns.
It may go without saying that if you're a manufacturer, the difference between being left behind or commanding market share may depend on your ability to innovate new products. But there's much more to it than simply developing the next new turbocharged hybrid widget. The real edge comes in the form of disruptive technology. And that's what we're discussing today with Roy Paulson, president of Paulson Manufacturing, on this debut studio cast of Manufacturer's Corner. Welcome and thank you for joining us for our maiden voyage of Manufacturer's Corner, a presentation of California CEO online video business magazine at californiaceo.net. I'm Jeff Allen. Nearly every week at this time, we'll be streaming a live studio cast of Manufacturer's Corner to engage and inform manufacturing professionals on a host of topics and key issues that our Alliance of Factory Sector experts have told us are critical today. Many of these programs will also be available for on-demand viewing on our website as well. Now, as I mentioned, on today's program, we're taking a look at disruptive technology and its impact on your business with my guest, Roy Paulson. He's president of Paulson Manufacturing in Temecula, California. His company designs and manufactures a wide range of industrial safety products, including face shields and safety eyewear. And he is also director of Paulson International in Germany, participating in many national and local boards. Roy Paulson brings a broad experience to bear in his volunteer activities. He is currently serving on an advisory committee to the U.S. government and maintains a security clearance in national security for these activities. Roy Paulson, it's nice to have you. Welcome to Manufacturer's Corner, sir.
Thank you very much for that nice introduction, Jeff. And I'm very excited to be here and also to be speaking with not only you, but also with this audience of manufacturers that we have. The manufacturers around the country are certainly enjoying a circumstance today where manufacturing is growing, and we need to take a look at how do we keep that pace up, because it's not just a growth in this year or next, it's a continuous method of growth.
Well, let's talk a little bit to kind of lead our discussion about what it is that Paulson Manufacturing does. Let's talk a little bit about your company, how long you've been around, and all the things that you're involved in.
Well, thanks. Paulson Manufacturing is a family business. It was started by my father, and his grandfather was helping him in 1947, right here in Temecula. Temecula, California was removed from the mainstream because it was primarily ranching. So the company had to develop an ability to be a vertically integrated company. That means a company that can do everything from the design to the building of the tooling to the manufacturing and distribution. This is the way the company was founded, and this is the way we've kept it. We've kept it as a closely held family business, and we've also kept it that we do all of these different aspects in-house. So certainly we've had to hire good talent, and that's one of the advantages of California. There is excellent talent in this state. 3 out of the 5 patents written in the United States are written in California. It shows where the innovation is at. So as the company developed, we stayed focused on making eye and face protection, and we specialized in making this equipment for all different types of markets. Most people are familiar with our products as, for example, face shields that would be on firemen's helmets. So if today we had an incident and the firemen came bursting in, you would see the clear face shields that are on the helmets actually were made by Paulson Manufacturing. And we've extended that in all different ways. Our products are in 5,000 major surgeries per week, all sold into the orthopedic industry, but these are items that are behind the scenes that you don't see. But the innovation for creating these was created right here in California at our factory, and but sold worldwide. Now, you mentioned that we have our location that's in Germany, and that's our location that we utilize for our international sales. We have a very nice facility there, warehouse, engineering, sales and distribution. And by having the facility in Germany, I have a very low landed cost because I can ship by container to Germany. And then from Germany, I can redistribute in small or large quantities all throughout Europe. And keep in mind, the European market is actually larger than the United States in terms of the full size of it. So the company has grown, and it's our innovation, it's our products that are catching fire, so to speak, in the marketplace. And we have a 37% growth rate for 2014. And that's on top of 2013 being our best year we'd ever had.
Wow. So that really does speak to, again, to Paulson's innovation. And really, innovation is kind of the buzzword today. It kind of sets our topic off nicely. And for those people who are listening and viewing our stream online, I just want to go ahead and let you know that if at any time during this program today you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to submit those right there on the stream. You can do that right there on your, whether you're looking on a laptop or you're looking at your tablet. And then we'll go ahead and we'll make sure that we get those questions right in, and we can ask Mr. Paulson your questions today. So we appreciate your participation. We appreciate your being here as well. Let's go ahead and just kick this whole thing off with a discussion of disruptive technology. But first of all, let's define what disruptive technology is. Now, there's some people, they hear the word disruptive, and they might think destructive. And that's not what that is.
No.
Disruptive technology, if you could.
I really want to bring it in as a story. I mean, how did I get to become familiar with disruptive technology?
Okay.
And disruptive technology is something that changes the marketplace. So I was at the Army Science Conference. This is a very, very nice event for people, for contractors to be able to go to. And I was actually presenting at the Army Science Conference for some research and development work I had been doing with the military.
About how long ago was this?
This was about 6 years ago.
Okay.
And so with this time frame of the 6 years, a lot has occurred since then. And when I was there, between times that I needed to be presenting about the parts that I was working on, I was attending all these different lectures. And it's a fairly large event. There's over 1,000 people that come to this event, invite only, of course. And subjects are everything from medical technology to destructive technology, as you mentioned, destructive.
Right.
But what the most interesting thing that I saw was this lecture about disruptive technology. And certainly all disruptive technology is innovative, but not all innovations are disruptive. So you have a circumstance of that when you make a new innovation that will really truly change the marketplace or change the whole working environment, that becomes a disruptive technology, and it actually disrupts and changes and obsoletes other things. So the example that we're using, because it was at a military event that I saw, this, or was experiencing this at, was they were using the example of drones. And so that as drones have now entered the military theater, it's changed the playing field completely. And as everyone is aware now, these drones are part and parcel to any activity that the military is doing. And we see drones being utilized in all
non-military needs. Yeah.
All sorts of non-military needs. Stealth technology is another example of a disruptive technology. You have any type of a military aircraft has to be stealth nowadays if it's going to be able to get past the radar. And this really captivated me. I said, I'm going to take what we're doing, because we were making all sorts of innovative products, but they were incremental innovative. We had a product and we were improving it, and then we were changing it slightly, and I want to make it so that our products are disruptive. Change the marketplace, create a new playing field, and then I want to be in first place. I like being in first place. I'm gonna go back just a little bit, because as manufacturers, we're constantly fighting the circumstance of foreign goods coming into the country and trying to compete against these prices. And for years, I was playing what I call defense. I was trying to adapt to the changes in the pricing. How can I make my product compete, and so forth? Well, with this idea of disruptive technology and innovation, I go from being defense to offense. And I really like playing offensively. So on this, I decided that I want to really move into how can I make products that change the marketplace. And I've done that. And it's been really successful.
So let's think about that for a second. You, a successful manufacturer to that point. Your business, family owned, had been in business for many years, and you'd found tremendous success manufacturing your products. And you go to this conference, and you learn about disruptive technology, which, by the way, now is, while it's still a new term, the terminology is still new to some people. Yeah. It's something that's been around. This idea that it's an ideology. Okay,
it's an ideology.
So you have a mindset going into this thing, and you come out of it with this new idea of how you want to go ahead and put disruptive technology to work for Paulson Manufacturing. But doesn't that mean that you have to kind of change your mindset, because you're used to thinking in a certain way, and then you're going from playing defense to offense. So let's just think about that for a second. Let's talk about that. It's a different mindset. It's a different methodology, a different way of thinking. How does a guy your age and your stage in your career all of a sudden change?
That's right. They say that somebody isn't going to come up with a Nobel Prize unless you've already thought of it by the time you're 30 years old. And I was over 30 by the time I learned about disruptive technology. But when I came out of that conference, I was on fire. I mean, you could light a match off of my head. I was so ready to go on this thing. And what they explained was that you have to be able to take A, B, C, and instead of going to D, you have to group A, B, and C together, and you jump up to G. Mm-hmm. You got to make that leapfrog. And in fact, the explanation was that the only way the United States will stay ahead of China, because the Chinese are graduating so many engineers in every possible field, is the only way to stay ahead is if we use this methodology to take what it is, the body of knowledge we have, look at where things are going to go, and make that leap. Now I can say one of the reasons that we have a big advantage in the United States is that our trained engineers and our trained STEM students get a relatively broad experience in their education. So they're not just focused on just one thing. They'll have multiple different fields that they work in, or that they've been trained in and educated on, and then they have their area of their specialty. So they can draw upon these multiple different fields.
And so this is an advantage.
A huge advantage.
Okay.
It's a huge advantage. And then I learned that at that conference. And then when I'm out traveling, and as you can well imagine, being in international business, I'm international on a regular basis. Right. My passports get filled up with all this travel. And I've seen around the world, the United States, and especially in California, we are more innovative here than anywhere else in the world. No question, no doubt. And we don't even know we are, because this is the way we grew up. Mm-hmm. We have our California ways that are different than the rest of the world. And we're willing to take risk, and we're willing to go for these things. When we talk about risk and success, it's like two sides of my hand. This side might be success, and this side might be risk. You can't remove that from the circumstance of when you're an entrepreneur and you're moving forward. You're always going to have risk and success connected together. However, we think quote unquote, a little bit more out of the box in California. And if we really grab onto, and especially if we use examples of where disruptive technology has taken hold, we can emulate that in almost all of our businesses.
So you come back from this conference, you sit down with your staff, after you've probably taken a weekend, you pondered it a little bit, and again, we're talking about a new methodology and way of thinking. How do you start then? How do you go to work on Monday and think, I'm going to take what I've learned at this conference and I'm going to start to employ this in the processes and our way of thinking here at Paulson Manufacturing. What did you have to do first? Is this a matter of just having a general staff meeting and say, okay guys, this is what we're going to do? I mean, how did you have to approach it from the very beginning?
Well, okay. First of all, you have to have a team that you're working with to be able to achieve these type of fairly large projects that I'm speaking of in my own company. And so one of the things that I said to my team is we're no longer going to feel constrained with our new projects of how we're going to build it. We're going to first say we want to make this new product, and we're going to make the CAD files, we're going to make the drawings, we're going to make the 3D printed products because I have all of this technology in my facility. Mm-hmm. But don't worry about how we're going to actually fully make it. In other words, let yourself go. Let yourself go. Okay. Now, the ideas I provide to them the overarching goal and the theme of what we're going to achieve, and then we work backwards from that to build all of the componentry and the 3D model, printed models to prove out that the idea would work. Now, in this case, coming back, and I'm talking to my team, they're thinking Roy took a pill. And right. He's not looking at the efficiencies of how this should be built, right. Or do we even have the capacity for making this. He's just saying we need to get these types of items made. And speaking of people thinking I took a pill, so did my customers. I went to some of my major customers and I explained what I was going to do, and I got nothing but no's. They said, that's not going to work. They said, no one will buy it. It'll be too expensive for the marketplace. And I had nothing but no's. But I've come to find out that is a good sign when you get that no and it won't work. And when you go to file your patent attorney says there's no reference material to reference on your patent. How are we supposed to work with this? These are good signs that you have something that's truly new, innovative, and disruptive to the marketplace. Now, I don't feel as though Paulson Manufacturing is going to go out and make a coffee cup that is truly innovative and disruptive to the marketplace. We have to be working on something that's in our field, and in our field, something that is generally in a market that's an expanding market. Don't want to try and go into a market that is flat or declining. Mm-hmm. And you need to have good contact with the end users and listen to what they're saying without, have those end user meetings and not tell them what they should say. Listen to what they say.
But see, I think now that's really key to me, because you're from the very beginning. Then you were took on this visionary responsibility.
Correct.
Because it was going to start with you and end with you probably at the end of the day, really. And so you didn't have immediate buy-in from your staff. You didn't have immediate buy-in from your distributors, your customers, anybody. In fact, people thought you were crazy. You took a pill, but you obviously you didn't, and everything was right in Roy Paulson's world. But the fact of the matter is that disruptive technology, just because it's disruptive and it's off the map in terms of innovation, you're starting with a clean slate because there's no reference material for patents.
Right.
And so it basically, it's an acknowledgement that this is new, this is different, this hasn't been done before. But you said something that's interesting. The interesting thing you said is that you need to listen to your customers. You listen to your customers, and some of them were telling you, basically, you're crazy, this isn't going to fly. But you listen to them anyway. And so are you saying then that the input from your customers was necessary, was critical to your developing this disruptive technology.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The customers know what their problems are. They don't know how to solve the problem because they don't have available materials or products to solve it. So by listening to the customers, and a lot of customers, go see them, and not listening to them on the phone, I found that to not work. Mm-hmm. It's to go see the customers and get into a relationship like we're having a conversation here, where you can really hear and understand and let them cry and complain about the situation, and then let those ideas flow into you, assuming that you already have a basic understanding of the marketplace, of course. Let those ideas flow into you, and then take these broad, multidisciplinary ideas or experiences to pull it together and then make that leap forward into what you're going to do. Now, the particular item that I'm talking about that was our really a big success, and what's driving this big number that I told you in the company, is an electrical safety product that's used for electricians. And
this is in wide use today?
In wide use today.
Okay.
And this item, particularly that we're talking about, if the item doesn't perform properly, you'll be killed in less than 1 second if there's an accident and it's meant to protect you. And if it doesn't protect you, you're dead.
My goodness.
So there was also resistance from people to have a change in this marketplace because they were familiar with what was already a life-saving technology that we had previously pioneered. And then they're saying, well, we're afraid to change it because maybe this new way doesn't work. And I can remember at the testing lab, when I went to send products up for the testing lab called me back and said, you sure you want to test these at the, it's very expensive. It's for testing these products. You sure you want to test it? It can't possibly work. They were thinking that I had again, taken a pill. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, you go ahead and put that in there. I've calculated that this baby will pass beautifully. Great success. And it was then when we had the test lab results in hand that I was able to really go to the customers and say, look, here's the test results. I've been telling you this idea was going to work. Here's the test results. Then the customers started to get the buy-in. And then when we made prototypes and tested them in field testing with the customers, end users, and let them get that feedback in, that's when I got this ball rolling.
Okay, so let's talk. Let's stop there for just a second. From the time then that you set out to start to employ this new way of thinking in terms of disruptive technology and bringing products to market or developing products for needs that the customers didn't even really know that they had yet.
That's correct.
From the time that you started to the time that this product launched and rolled out and went into the hands of its first customer, its first user, how much time actually went past?
Boy, I think that was probably about 3 years.
Okay.
It was about 3 years. And I want to mention something at this critical juncture of discussion, and that's about the changes that have occurred in patent law. Because obviously, I'm not going to do a project like this without having intellectual property protection. Mm-hmm. Every manufacturer needs that. First of all, the change in the laws are, and these are recent changes, is that it's no longer the time that you invented the product. So I invented it last June, okay? It's no longer that. It's now the time that you filed the patent.
Okay.
This is a big change that occurred. I had worked, by the way, in Congress to explain this to the voting members of Congress about this change in the law because they were confused about what this all meant. Mm-hmm. And so I availed myself to make sure I communicated with our congressman in a way, because I have a lot of patents. I'm very familiar with the patent system, and I really like this change. And in this case of intellectual property, we need to protect our inventions. And I strongly suggest to our audience is to trademark it, have a design patent, that would be the way it looks, like a Coca-Cola bottle has a specific look. That would be a design patent for the look, and then have multiple utility patents on the way it works. So you're covered in 3 different ways: trademark, design patent, and utility patent. I'm currently have about something less than a dozen patents that I'm currently working on that are about half of those have been filed, and the other half are still in the draft phases. And then I have a lot of patents that have cleared from the past and that are in force. But I would say that this time to file is so important, because people will have a good idea and then they won't move on it. And the famous story about the light bulb with Edison, if Edison hadn't invented the light bulb, somebody probably would have invented the light bulb at the same, within a few months.
Right.
So we have to move, we have to act, and it's dependent on the way that you structure your business. Like you had mentioned earlier, we were talking about the team and how do we get that team together and get them on the page of this innovation and striving towards disruptive technology. We also have to get everybody's thinking that as soon as you're thinking of a new idea or a product, you have to get it written down. And then it has to be reviewed, and then you have to make a determination: are you going to file a patent or a provisional patent or a utility patent to hold that idea and save it? Otherwise, somebody else might be thinking of the same thing. And I've seen a lot of parallel developments occur over my lifetime.
And so even if there's an uncertainty on the part of an inventor, a developer of any kind, product development, make sure the key here is to keep in mind the need to protect that property, because it is an intellectual property, and whether or not it actually has any future for real use and application in industry, or no matter where it is it's sold, make sure that you protect yourself and protect your property. What were some of the hurdles and some of the challenges, Roy, do you remember facing in the very beginning as you were kind of launching into this new effort in employing this disruptive technology mindset with your staff?
Well, some of my challenges there were in physics, and so luckily for me, it's an area I love, and I was able to work out the mathematics and the physics of the circumstance. But where I really ran into roadblocks was I wanted to sell this product to a major company here in the U.S., a Fortune 100 company. I wanted to sell this idea to them, and because they had never seen something that worked in this way, even though I was currently selling to them other products, the pushback was so severe from, if you're in a huge conference room, you have all of their experts are there. They even brought in their international team for my presentation. And I had put together a PowerPoint, as you're flying out to see the customer, you're going through your mind of that you're going to have a great success. And I run through the PowerPoint, I explain everything. I show them where the pricing of this new item, which is more than double of what the current pricing of the products are. And it's just, I got such a flat no from everyone on every level. The marketing manager, the people that are making the decisions on where the prices of the products are, the international sales, the domestic sales. It was such a flat answer back of 0, don't want it, not interested, won't sell. Now I like to go back. I was recently back in that same boardroom, and they make a greater multiple on this new item than anything else in their product line.
That's fascinating.
And of course now they all want to take credit for the new item, and I let them have it because I don't care. I'm interested in making the product. I have all the intellectual property. I have all of the tooling, and I sell the product to them, and I'm making my money on the production.
This program is brought to you by the following proud sponsors: Paulson Manufacturing, saving the eyes and lives of workers and first responders by manufacturing the highest quality and most reliable safety protective gear in the world. And by the All-Tech Media Group, the region's leading multimedia video production and marketing company, creating powerful and innovative marketing strategies that deliver exponential returns.
How did you overcome? Do you remember immediately trying to overcome those objections by trying to offer some truly candid and long-winded explanation of why it is that you need to spend twice as much for something like this? Or is it simply one of those things, make it, show them how it works, let them believe in it? How did that work out?
Yes, the tooling for this kind of a project was phenomenally expensive.
Okay.
And I bore the expense of this tooling. And so I wanted to have this big customer, and I really was not able to convince them with words. And we were talking about the physics, even though I had all of these Excel files that would show that this thing would work, I couldn't prove it. And so I went back and I built with 3D printing technology, I built physical models. I went from trying to paint this picture in the air to making physical models, and then taking those physical models and pre-testing those both in the testing lab and with the customers. I had learned along over the years, because I have done a lot of research with the military, and I've done many projects with developing new technologies, new methods, and new materials actually for use in the military. And I had this experience of that you have to show it scientifically, but you still have to show it also physically. So I went to that, showing them physically. And once they saw it physically, they of course were starting to get interested, and I was able to get some buy-in, but I never got true buy-in until when we completely finished the project, and then they started hearing back all these glowing reports from the customers. That's when true buy-in occurred.
And obviously that keeps you moving forward, that ramps up the enthusiasm, and everybody else can see that you've got people jumping on board. Hey, what we're doing here, this is good. This is, we're creating something here to fill a need. I'm just going to reset here for those who are just jumping into our stream. If you have any questions for Roy Paulson, feel free to go ahead and just ask those right there on your tablet, or if you're looking at your desktop, just feel free to submit those questions. We'll get those to Roy right away here. And that goes the same for those members in our audience here as well. They can just go ahead, and we'll take a moment out to pause and get those questions taken care of for you. So this became then, Roy, a situation where you decided, hey, I just got to make the thing. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to show them how it works. We're going to prove to them how it works, why it works as well as it does, and then the rest is really up to them. They're going to decide if it's worth it or not. Your members of your team, and we'll kind of just take a little step back here. Do you remember at any point dealing with any frustrations, people on your team who are so essential toward the development of your products? Do you remember having to deal with those from inside, and how it was that you were able to talk to these folks and keep them in the fold and keep them engaged and interested in what it was that you were doing?
Well, yes, I had to constantly be quote unquote riding herd on this, to keep this project moving forward. Right. Because this is, it's a multidisciplinary project. And keeping everybody moving towards the goal of the launch date. Mm-hmm. And we have all sorts of different milestones that are involved with that. Now, as in all projects, we pick a date that's logical in the future, and we then work backwards. It's called backwards scheduling. And we schedule backwards through time to what do we have to do at each of these milestones to know that we're going to meet this particular date. Many of the aspects of this designs that we did here on what we're discussing, we didn't know how we were going to solve it. And so we would say by these dates, we have to come to a decision of how we're going to solve these particular problems, because the end launch date is, we consider that to be a non-movable date. Mm-hmm. And so there was many times I would have to say to the team, okay, we don't have an answer. We're going to table that. We're going to work on the other things that are more definable, that we know we can do to keep moving the project forward. And we're going to have to look at these unsolvable problems. We call them hard problems. You know, right. And we definitely had them. We had hard problems associated with this. And but by doing that, it allows the team to keep thinking in the back of their mind what it is that you're thinking, you know, how to solve those problems. Now we have, in our facility, I've built over all these years, I've built a very nice laboratory. So I have my own very nice laboratory, and more or less I have every piece of testing equipment that is necessary in the product line of products that we make. I make about 1,000 different items, all related to safety equipment. And so we have all of these different testing methods, and I have my laboratory is also well staffed and well trained. We have operate under ISO 9001, and so everything has to be documented, and all operations and methodologies, our procedures are documented procedures, so it's repeatable, and that also includes for the laboratory. So each day I would write what's called design of experiments. So I would write my design of experiments to the lab. I said, you're going to test this material, you're going to test this flex modulus, you're going to test this tensile strength, you're going to do this. And we wrote hundreds of designs of experiments that would help us to break through these hard problems that we couldn't get past. And so by doing all of these different experiments, that accumulates together into a body of knowledge. Now you can just imagine that I'm going to now lead to is that this then becomes the information that's put forth for your patent and for your intellectual property. And this body of knowledge that you've accumulated on your particular project, that's really important information for the corporation that is all of that supports. It's like the foundation for this new project that you're going to be going to. Now I'm going to be going in February. There's another somewhat similar method called a digital tapestry. This terminology is called, that describes what I just described with my long explanation. There's this name on it called digital tapestry. This was coined by Lockheed. And that's how they used and put everything together for building of the F-35 fighter. And just like the F-35 fighter, my new project, which only has 86 components in it, as compared to the fighter, which has hundreds of thousands, we built the whole thing in CAD and in the computer, 3D modeling, and we had the whole thing as a working model in the computer before we ever made one piece of tooling. We then took and built all of the parts on my 3D printing machine so that we were able to fit and put everything together as a prototype before we built any tooling. This is such a cost savings because if you build the tooling and it doesn't work, you're out hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we were able to model this both in the computer and with physical samples by 3D printing in a way that we had this great confidence to move through.
Just the anticipation and the planning involved in doing all of this, assuming all of the problems and challenges, hurdles that you needed to overcome and have an answer for to create this body of knowledge, just extraordinary when you think about it. But it was something that paid off nicely because, as you pointed out, it ended up resulting in a tremendous cost savings
yes.
in the long run. There's no telling what the losses could have been.
Well, it would have delayed the project too.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And in some cases, for some companies, depending on what you manufacture, or what you're planning to build, it could end up just railroading the whole project altogether when you just say, forget it, we're just not going to go through with it. But you did, obviously.
And by the way, this product in our industry, on an independent panel, won the Innovative Product of the Year award, which was very nice to have that award attached to this innovative product that everyone said wouldn't work. And now I can go, this has only recently been launched, I could go to, in fact, my sales team was, last week was in India. We were doing a trade show in India. And in India, the people were asking about this particular product. It's known all throughout the world now. It just spread like wildfire.
That's extraordinary, and awards won't necessarily sell your products, but it doesn't hurt. So if you're able to produce something like that and receive that kind of recognition, obviously the word gets out. Roy, not everyone, I think, we're all not cut from the same cloth, and so that there are people out there building lawn mowers and garbage cans and all number of different items that are they're committed to continuing to manufacture what they do, and that's all they can do. It's what they know. It's what they do. It's what they know how to do. And yet we've got people coming up on every street corner who are coming up with these new ideas and ways to make better lawnmowers and better garbage cans. Do you think that the idea of disruptive technology and employing the mindset that's necessary to get you from point A, or to go from ABC and all make that quantum leap to JKL, as we talked about earlier, is this something that can be taught or learned? I mean, even if you're maybe a young inventor, if you're a young entrepreneur and you've got this idea, and maybe you're not so stuck or set in your ways, is this idea of thinking this way, is this something that everybody can do?
I think it should be a university course that opens the mind up to teach people that in any discipline that this is something that can be done.
And you think it can be taught? Do you think?
I think it's teachable. Yeah. I think the problem is that in most university settings or in college settings is that you're not taught that, because you have a book, right?
Interesting.
And you have the book and you start at chapter 1 and you go through chapter 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way through. And I think that what we've done is we've taught ourselves to think in a linear fashion. And we need to move to this where, as we were discussing, you group together your concepts and ideas, you listen to your customers, and you make that leap forward. Because we can make that leap forward in everything that we're doing in this country. I mean, wasn't fracking a disruptive technology that has now lowered the price at the pump for all of us? And after all, what is fracking? It's just a hydraulic expansion of the rock underneath. It's not really that big of a difference,
right,
but it has just changed the whole industry. And so it's a matter of that people have to make this kind of a leap in all of the different things that we're doing. And so I believe that it's something that should be taught. I think it is teachable. I believe that it will applies to every discipline that there is. I'm describing that I've built this nice laboratory. Well, not everybody has a nice laboratory. That doesn't matter. You can keep your notes and your ideas together, put it together into this body of knowledge without having necessarily all of the tools, because you can subcontract a lot of these things. Mm-hmm. I really like this idea of that we should break ourselves out of this mold, and that an idea that I had coming out of a conference when I felt like I was on fire, and then you have this idea and it comes together, you get it built, you get it distributed, Everybody's in the distribution path is making a lot of money on it. Mm-hmm. And now I can go anywhere in the world, and just in a short couple of years, the product is known throughout the world. I think that is a great example of disruptive technology done by a small company. We were talking about the large companies and small companies. The large companies depend on the small companies to come up with the innovative ideas, because they're so wrapped up in corporate culture, mm-hmm. and they're so linear in their thinking, they can't make the breakthrough. So it's the small businesses in the United States that have to support those large companies with all of the products that are necessary. Do you think that on the F-35, and I've got a lot of friends of mine are making stuff for the F-35 fighter, do you think that when they had designed those parts that all the details were worked out? No, they had hard problems of how to make the products, hard problems of how to interface them and work them together. And they did the same basic thing of that they had to work through those problems until they were all able to put it all together in the final.
That's really key too. I think, many of us entrepreneurs, and it doesn't really matter what kind of business you're in, okay? But it seems to me, just speaking from experience, that we sometimes get into this idea that we're kind of stuck on an island. When we come up against a problem, that there's no way to solve it because we've thought about it ourselves many, many times. How do I get over this new challenge that I have? And the point of fact is I would venture to probably guess that there are very few situations that other people, whether they be in your business, or they be in a competing industry or some other sector, that they haven't had the same problems. And so I think we have to get out of the mindset, would you not agree, that whatever it is that we're working on today, we need to develop this and have it to market tomorrow. There seems to be kind of a rush, I think, probably, that tends to cloud better judgment on some of these tremendous ideas, because we know that the home personal computer was not built in a day or in the span of a few weeks. You had some issues. You just talked about major companies, aerospace, developing these military fighters that came up against these roadblocks along the way that they had to deal with. In disruptive technology, same thing is true. You're dealing with breakthroughs to solve problems that some customers don't even know that they have yet. And that doesn't mean that you should stop or delay what it is that you're doing, but to move full speed ahead. Disruptive technology, is this something that you believe is critical to the success of companies that are coming online and doing business today, new manufacturers? Is it important that they take this idea to heart very seriously?
I think they should take it to heart, but I also feel as though that as newer, small companies are getting started, they need to get their feet wet and establish themselves so that people believe in them and they believe in themselves. And they develop a team that can deal with all of the variables of the marketplace, because you might have a great idea, but your ability to get the horsepower of the engine to the rubber of the tire to the road to move the thing forward, sometimes you have to hold back a little bit to get your team together. Doesn't mean that you don't get your intellectual property set up. And teams nowadays, teams are no longer all the people in this room. The teams can be far-flung, connected by the internet, working on this same problem at a different time zone than you are, and so forth. So we have a lot more at our disposal. Really, we've made, with the internet and all of these changes, and other disruptive technology, by the way.
It sure is.
This has made so that we can have these virtual teams that work together and really accelerate product development, get it to market faster. But I remember what I said about setting that point out there and then backwards scheduling. I think that's key and critical to how to get your products to market. People fail on getting products to market on a regular basis because they don't follow the discipline necessary to get it there.
And it goes beyond just simply setting simple goals. I mean, we all have been told the importance of setting goals, but it's much more detailed process than
It's much more detailed, and project management really is what that falls under. But but going back for a moment and talking about manufacturers across the country, manufacturers across the country are enjoying a boom. They are, in general, are increasing their volume, increasing the number of products, finding greater markets. And part of this is because of the low cost of energy. There's no doubt that's a big factor. So low cost of energy. But here in the United States, we have other factors that are coming to play. We have coasts on the Pacific and the Atlantic, which are going out into these huge markets. Not many countries have coastlines and harbors on both sides, both Pacific and Atlantic. We have an excellent educational system. Everyone in this country can become educated at whatever level they really want to get to. And this is constantly spitting out the new people coming into the market to work. I call it fresh blood coming out into the marketplace. And then we have a great internal transportation system. You know, the people don't use the trains for transport for personal use, but for freight, it's wonderful. And you know, I load the containers at my factory. They go by train to Texas for going out onto the Atlantic, and then they go here to Los Angeles for shipping out to the Pacific. It's a really very good system compared to almost any other country. This is really excellent. And the people of the United States are inherently risk takers. They're willing to take the risk. We have a financial system that's set up for that. So if you have a if you fail, there's a bankruptcy, you can come clean on it, you can start again. There's money that's available, either through the banking or through the angel investors that will come in. And these combinations of things together, it's unique. You don't see how unique it is until you travel to other countries and you see all of the constraints and problems. And over in these other countries, they have not only the constraints and problems of lack of transportation, lack of accessibility of good materials, lack of educated workforce, but they have oppressive government problems, and they have an unstable government. Our government, even though we all love to complain about it, it is very stable. And this stable government circumstance allows us to plan for our futures. I believe that we have a manufacturing renaissance that will run for at least 25 years of continuous growth in manufacturing. They won't be big, giant manufacturers. They'll be innovative, smaller manufacturers, let's just say under 500 people, for so 50 to 500, making a broad variety of innovative new products. And when those products become commodities, after they've been in a market for a while, those are going to be duplicated in other countries. And they're going to be shipped to the US cheaper than you can make it here. But that's okay. That's not a problem, because we're going to already be making the new item that everybody needs and wants.
And I think that's a great encouraging thought, too, for a lot of folks who may have kind of lost sight of their place in the marketplace, and that is that this is really the land of innovation. It all starts here, and while it could be made cheaper someplace else, eventually the next idea is already on the way, and anyone can be part of that ongoing revolution, which is kind of what we see here. Roy Paulson, we have just a couple of minutes left in our program today, our first episode of Manufacturer's Corner. Just some final thoughts, key takeaways from our discussion today that you'd like to leave people with today.
Well, first of all, the first key takeaway is that, and as we were ending there, is that manufacturers can be competitive, make a good profit on their products, sell them internationally, as long as you have innovative products. Next key takeaway would be that please remember about this new rule on patents, that it's from the time that you file. And when you have your ideas, get those consolidated together, put it with your body of knowledge, and beat a path down to the patent attorney and go over that with him and get that product patented, at least with a provisional patent, so it's a holding patent, to keep it in place so that you can then continue to work on it, not have somebody else do a parallel invention of that. Not every product is going to be disruptive. That's just reality. But you can continuously work on innovative products and then aim towards that you're going to have that great disruptive technology that will change the marketplace forever, and you'll have that impact in society.
Well, Roy, I want to thank you so much for this discussion. It was really a great way, I think, to lead off our series of episodes for Manufacturers Corner, and you've been very gracious, and hopefully you'll join us again.
Thank you so much.
Roy Paulson, Paulson Manufacturing. And that's going to wrap up this inaugural edition of Manufacturers Corner. Thanks again to Roy. He was our guest today, and we'll have more episodes to come. If you're a manufacturer, policymaker, or educator, and you'd like to take part in our discussions as a guest or a member of our future roundtable discussions, please complete our contact form on the contact page at californiaceo.net. Or you can also call us directly at the office, 951-687-3098. If you'd like to be a sponsor of Manufacturers Corner, be happy to talk with you about that as well. Again, just visit the contact page, californiaceo.net. And again, the number, 951-687-3098. We'll get in touch with you right away, and we're also going to add you to our email list and get back with you with all the information that you need. For Manufacturers Corner, I'm Jeff Allen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.
This program was brought to you by the following proud sponsors: Paulson Manufacturing, saving the eyes and lives of workers and first responders by manufacturing the highest quality and most reliable safety protective gear in the world. And by the All-Tech Media Group, the region's leading multimedia video production and marketing company, creating powerful and innovative marketing strategies that deliver exponential returns.